Today on Hearts of Heroes, terror on the mountain when lightning strikes a group of climbers at 9,000 feet.
We were all just kind of thrown in the air like 10, 15 feet.
And first responders lead a huge rescue effort.
8 folks hit by lightning is a big, big deal.
Then, when major flooding hits a small town in Texas, no one is spared from the devastation.
It was a scary situation, it really was.
And everyone learns even a tropical storm can be disastrous.
It got so overwhelming, so much water so quick.
Hiking is such a great way to get outdoors and connect to nature. But of course, it is not without risk. You can get lost, you can get injured, and of course, avalanche, even lightning strikes, especially if you're hiking at high elevations, because that's what happened to a woman in the summer of 2019. Fortunately, there was a group of highly trained volunteers to her rescue.
Located in the Rocky Mountains, just outside of Denver, Devil's Head is a popular recreation area for adventurists of all kinds. And it definitely encompasses the outdoor spirit of the Silver State.
In Colorado, there are world-class outdoor athletes of all different types. Climbers, snowboarders, skiers, trail runners, you name it. It's really part of our life here in Colorado.
I love the mountains, I love being high up, and I love the movement that climbing has.
But in June of 2019, as many climbers were taking advantage of the Rocky Mountains' beauty, in typical high-altitude fashion, the weather went from spectacular to severe.
The mountains kind of can create their own weather, so it can be very unexpected. So it can be very blue skies to then all of a sudden a storm can come out of nowhere and can start lightning and raining and hailing.
The weather started coming in. We could see it getting really dark, a really loud thunderstorm. Then just within the next few seconds, we started seeing lightning flashes sort of all around us. And then it started hailing pretty hard.
For those who know the mountains, they knew the conditions were getting dangerous.
As the weather started really breaking down, my thoughts were find a spot and wait it out.
As the lightning grew closer, Todd realized they'd have to find shelter immediately.
There were tall trees, there was a pretty tall rock formation close to us. There was an area a little bit downhill, but it was more open. There really were no perfect choices at that point.
With lightning striking all around them, the group of climbers found a rock formation to take shelter under.
It's a kind of a steep overhanging wall. It provided a lot of protection from the wind and from the rain, and overhung enough that you could even stay dry if you were in too close to it.
And we all sort of huddled under this overhanging rock, and I happened to be closest to the rock.
And then all of a sudden, another flashbang, and my first thought was, I wonder how close that one was. And that's when I realized that, yeah, it was really close. In fact, we'd just been hit.
1 minute, we're all just talking, saying that was really close, and then the next minute, we were all just kind of thrown in the air like 10, 15 feet.
And then I turned further around, and Sandy, who was standing behind me, was completely unconscious.
Dazed but unhurt, Todd began looking around and helping his fellow climbers who had just been struck by lightning. A few of them sustained significant injuries, but Sandy was in the most critical condition.
I could see that my shoulder bone was like popping out, and there was a really, really loud buzzing in my right ear. I was very dizzy.
Sandy had no idea how fortunate she was to have Todd there that afternoon. She was badly injured, and it would be his experience and clear thinking that would possibly save her life.
So I ran up the hill and got my phone and called 911 as fast as I could, because I knew that with the number of us and what had happened, somebody was going to need some help.
Coming up, badly injured and at the top of a mountain. Would rescuers be able to get to Sandy in time?
The next reaction was mostly just fear for hypothermia setting in.
And later, when a flood hits a small community, one couple finds themselves in danger.
We didn't have power, and his oxygen level was starting to really drop. And I know his tanks weren't going to be lasting very long.
But first, this safety tip.
Contrary to the cliche, lightning can actually strike the same place twice. But even so, just once is dangerous enough.
If there's potential for lightning to be striking in your immediate vicinity, quickly get to a shelter or even a vehicle. Being out in the open or near a tree will only increase your odds of putting yourself in danger.
By knowing and heeding warning signs, you'll be keeping yourself and those around you in a safer place away from imminent threat.
In June of 2019, a small group of mountain climbers were struck by lightning, leaving several seriously injured, including Sandy Vasudevan. Fellow climber Todd Anderson immediately took the first steps to getting her help.
First thing I wanted to do was make sure to communicate very clearly to 911 that we were at a climbing area and not on the hiking trail.
This kind of rescue would require a specialized team who are used to performing in extreme conditions. So dispatch contacted the Douglas County Search and Rescue.
It's a team of professional, all-volunteer folks, really focused on being there where there's a need for a rescue or search.
When the search and rescue squad got word that there could be multiple injuries, nearly 30 volunteers answered the call.
These volunteers show the best of what it means to be a hero. They don't do it for money or for recognition. They do it solely out of a sense of duty and the honor to serve their communities.
But as the group of climbers waited, the weather conditions grew more dire.
It was like being blasted with a fire hose. And the hail was coming down in sheets, and several of the folks didn't have rain gear or anything.
The next reaction was mostly just fear for hypothermia setting in. It was really wet. They basically threw all their jackets on me, and they tried to keep me as warm as they could. But I could tell I was shivering pretty bad.
At this point, Todd realized he would have to take action to assist search and rescue.
I knew time was of the essence, and we needed to have their help. And so I ran down to the parking lot to get them.
Fortunately, Todd knew the mountain trail better than anyone, saving the EMTs valuable time.
And then I went back up the hill with the EMT. I took one of their packs and he went with me so I could get him very quickly back to Sandy.
After a rugged half-hour hike through even more lightning, the rescue team made it to Sandy.
So when we got to her, she was very, very cold, very out of it. We just knew we needed to get her down as fast as we could.
As the weather finally let up, the rescue team safely got Sandy down the mountain to an ambulance.
I sustained a few injuries from the lightning strike. I broke my AC joint collarbone, and there's a hole in my eardrum, so there'll be some hearing loss.
Despite her injuries, within a month, Sandy was actually back to climbing again. She also had an opportunity to connect with those who had saved her life.
It was a really awesome opportunity because not all the time do we get to have like a subject come back and be able to speak to us firsthand about how we impacted their lives.
I just want to say thank you to all of you so much. I want to say that the team was really inspirational. It motivates me to want to go out there and be a volunteer myself. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing.
Coming up, a torrential storm hits a Texas town with an unbelievable amount of rain.
I really didn't realize how bad it was until I actually seen the water rushing over the road.
Being in a flooding disaster is scary enough as it is, but add to that challenge having an immobile loved one to care for in the flood. That's exactly what happened to one family in the summer of 2019.
Conroe, Texas is a mid-sized city located just outside Houston. But it still holds on to its small-town values and way of life. Here, the local fire department goes out of their way to build a strong relationship with the community.
We read to kids at local daycares, at the local schools. We meet with Boy Scout groups and other extracurricular activity groups. We just want the community to know that we're always going to come for them no matter what.
And because they're located on the Gulf of Mexico, this area certainly sees its fair share of turbulent weather. So first responders always have to be on the ready. And then came Tropical Storm Imelda. Though it was heading straight for the Gulf Coast, it had been downgraded from a hurricane. The people of Conroe and first responders were all prepared for rain, but very few understood that feet of rain would swamp them.
We were aware that we were going to get some rain, but I don't think everybody was prepared for the amount of rain we got in that particular time frame.
On September 18th, the storm began for the city of Conroe. That morning, Beverly Rodriguez was taking care of her 2-year-old great-nephew and her husband, Jesse, who requires oxygen therapy.
Our electricity went out at about 6 o'clock, 6:15 that morning. I've been monitoring it all day, and he was doing good on his tanks and stuff. And I want to say it was about maybe 1 o'clock. It started kind of going down a little bit.
Beverly had called her sister-in-law and nephew to drop off some food for the baby, but when Beverly walked down to meet them, she understood the gravity of the situation.
I really didn't realize how bad it was until I actually seen the water rushing over the road. Then I knew it was going to be bad.
By now, the storm was pouring on a 70-mile area, and every emergency vehicle was out responding to rescue calls.
The sheriff's department was here, the constable's office was here, the game warden was here. Very easily, a dozen vehicles were on the street.
But Chief Flannelly's department was facing an emergency of their own.
We started taking on water, and it got so overwhelming, so much water so quick, that I made the decision to get all our resources out to a safe area.
Although their station was sustaining major damage, they knew that their first priority was to help their people. So they continued their mission.
It says so much about these brave men and women. They went off to help those people in need, even though they were at risk of losing their own property. Not to mention the place that is truly their second home.
At the end of the day, the reason that we're here is to answer 911 calls. And to my knowledge, these guys, these firemen, did not miss one signal 911 call.
And one of those 911 calls was Beverly. Jesse's oxygen levels were dropping, so all they could do was wait for first responders to be able to reach them.
We didn't have power, and his oxygen level was starting to really drop, and I was worried about it. And no power, and I know his tanks weren't going to be lasting very long.
Coming up, Beverly and her family face a terrifying ticking clock.
It was a scary situation, it really was.
But first, this safety tip.
In the United States, floods are the most frequent natural disaster. They can be caused by a range of events such as rain, snow, storms, or even overflows of dams or levees.
If a flood warning has been issued, you must find safe ground immediately, not following evacuation orders, entering flood waters, or remaining after a flood has passed can put you or your loved ones at risk.
Listen to warnings from local authorities and have a plan ready to protect yourself. These precautions are created to keep you and your loved ones out of harm's way.
In September of 2019, a tropical storm struck southeast Texas as the 7th wettest tropical storm on record. Included in the deluge, the city of Conroe. With her husband's oxygen tank running out and major roads flooded, all Beverly Rodriguez could do was pray that help would get to her in time.
He's on oxygen 24/7. We didn't have power, and his oxygen level was starting to really drop. It was a scary situation, it really was.
Though their fire station was flooding, the main concern of the first responders from Caney Creek number 9 was to get to Beverly and her husband as quickly as possible.
I knew it was going to take them time because of all the weather and all the rescues that were going on. All the resources were being used. When they finally got here, they brought a booster truck and a little life raft.
We had a citizen call that was wheelchair bound. There was 4 people, I believe. We had to get these people from the ground into the hot water vehicle.
But they weren't out of the woods yet. The storm had dropped 30 to 40 inches of rain. Much of it fell in just 12 hours. And in order to get to the hospital, they would have to drive through what was essentially a rushing river.
I could feel that the current just kind of trying to push the truck. And it's a big, heavy truck. And it was trying to push, and it scared me.
They eventually got Beverly's husband to the hospital in the nick of time. Looking back, Beverly knows just how lucky they truly were.
I've always seen it on TV, how people get rescued, but myself, I never thought I would have to be rescued at all. And I do thank the first responders for that, because if it wasn't for them, this would have probably been a total different outcome.
But after helping so many people, the first responders of the Caney Creek Fire Department had to assess their own losses. Their station would need major flood restoration.
The kitchen, as you can see, is no more. It was a full kitchen, had 4 refrigerators, stove, microwave, sinks, all that stuff. Everything got wet. Water was the highest here, so all our personnel files, they got wet. The medical records, previous payrolls, minutes to the meetings, all that documentation got wet.
But our sponsor, Belfour, was there to answer the call. They hauled truckloads of waterlogged documents to their facility in Fort Worth, Texas.
It's nice every now and then for us to get a chance to give back to the people who help, like the fire department that was affected. We come in after they've done their job, and we try to help people get their properties back in order. So we're taking their documents that were affected, cleaning them, drying them, and we're going to give them back to them.
Recently, Sheldon Yellen and members of the Belfour crew had a chance to meet up with the team from Caney Creek's fire department.
Well, Chief, these documents, papers have been restored. Just our little way of thanking you for all that you do for so many other people. These are yours. Again, we're just honored to do a little part to help you serve others and those in need. And if we could, I would like to impose upon you for a minute.
Absolutely.
Explain to us what did happen here.
Yeah, I mean, the phones never stopped. This particular time,
You had no notice.
there was no notice. It was
Right.
50 inches of rain in about 6 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so while all of this activity is going on, and your men and women are dispatched to go help those in need, and again, dire calls,
Absolutely.
life-saving issues, life health issues, your hub, your home base is flooding. And yet you guys are all serving others.
And that's the heart and soul of a firefighter. No matter where you go, that's how firemen function. You know, it's other people first. There's times that we lose focus and put the job in front of our family and other things, but man, that's just how firemen are. This is where most of the water started really coming in. It came right through here.
Right through the window.
So we were sitting here and Chief got a phone call that the Sheriff's Department was sending one of their high water vehicles to us. We figured it'd be better for us to get out there and start helping with some of the calls that we had coming in, to start getting those people taken care of.
It's everybody pulling together with whatever resources you have available, manpower available, to go serve somebody in need.
Absolutely. Get the
It's
job
amazing.
done.
This is what we all should be and can be proud of. And I'm grateful for you. You guys are unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
There are millions of firefighters, first responders, and police across this nation. And while they may all come from very different backgrounds, they share one thing in common. That is the duty to serve when someone is in need. And for that, we are eternally grateful. I'm Ginger Zee. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you next time.